Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Well, the plan today was analysis and commentary from our roundtable pundits about this week's election. But a lot of things happened on the way to the studio, to coin a phrase. So we will talk about elections and other current events, but with you, our audience. And if you've ever wanted to ask Bill Thomas why he thinks the way he does, today is your chance. Carol and Bill and I are ready to answer your questions at 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So let's talk. Another View is next, so stay tuned.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Veterans, we salute you, and we thank you for your service, and we hope that you are enjoying today, this entire weekend, as we pay homage to the work that you do to keep us all safe. So thank you very, very much. Now, I'm starting today's show on a bittersweet note. Our Another View Roundtable pundit, Will Leviste, will no longer serve as a regular on the roundtable. Will is still based in Virginia and is finishing his doctoral work at Old Dominion University. However, he's been doing some development work with the Mennonite Mission Network, which is based in the Midwest. The agency, which has voluntary service projects and partnerships all across the nation and the world, keeps him on the road often and unfortunately out of town for most of the time that we're doing the AV Roundtable. Now, Will has been a voice of moderation and reason over the 7 years that we've been on the radio, and he will be sorely missed. He promises to make an appearance on occasion when he's in town, visiting friends and family, and we wish him the very, very best. So we are in search of a moderate Republican or independent political voice for our roundtable. If you think you have what it takes to defend your position with Roger Chesley, Carol Pretlow, Bill Thomas, and Tim Siebels, send me an email with your resume and a short, no more than 500 words, paragraph on why you would be a great Another View pundit. Please email it to contact@anotherviewradio.org. We will be in touch with those whom we are interested in, so be sure to include your telephone number and email address. And please, no phone calls, okay? Don't call us, just email us at contact@anotherviewradio.org. So then there were three, except Roger Chesley has come down with the crud, and he's not feeling well, so he's unable to join us today. Roger, we hope you feel better soon. But we are happy to have Carol Pretlow, the political science professor at Norfolk State University. Hey, Carol. How you doing?
Wonderful.
Good. Thanks for being here. And Bill Thomas, our resident conservative and community activist. How you doing, Bill?
I think I'm good, if you can hear me. Am I good?
Yes,
yeah,
you're
very
good.
Yes,
you're absolutely
very well,
good.
Very well.
Thank you so much for joining us. And audience, we want you to call in. We want you to be a part of this conversation today. If you have questions about our two pundits who are here, if you want to get to know them on a more personal level, give us a call at 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. And we are going to start, though, by talking about this week's election coverage. And Carol, since you are the political scientist, I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
Wow. How long do we have?
Well, number one, we had a lot of firsts. Okay.
Yeah.
We had two Latino representatives, first time ever elected. We have our first transgender delegate that was elected to the House. More African Americans than ever turned out for the election. But when you look at the map, I still saw a lot of red up there, even though I know in key areas Democrats were able to win, but there was still a lot of red on that map.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because election night, I was trying to get a feel of how people would vote and all, and I divided it basically as you have. But one of the things that struck me is that the rural areas, which are very conservative, and I guess my focus on them comes from growing up in Isle of Wight County, and I'm looking at those, and they are still very, very conservative. And I don't think they are looking at issues as much as they were personalities. And they have in the past been strongly Republican. They were also strongly Republican in terms of the Trump candidacy. So I was not surprised to see that conservatism remains.
So do you think that the fact that Democrats had such a sweep in Virginia was a direct rebuke of Trump and his policies?
I do think that. And I talked to my students yesterday about it, and we went through issue by issue, some of them, and they were saying, well, this is Trump. And I would say, no, this is the Republican Party. But I think he is the figurehead, the person that people most think about when they think about the Republican Party now.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. What's your take on the elections from this past Tuesday? Were you surprised at the state turning from purple to blue? Or do you agree with that analysis? 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Bill, what do you think about the election? Were you pleased or unhappy?
No, I'm pleased.
Of course.
I'm very
Really?
pleased. Yes.
Well, I'm surprised.
Oh, absolutely. I'm
not.
pleased that 48% of our fellow citizens, went out to vote. I'm pleased that the African American community went out to vote, and young people went out to vote, and people expressed their opinion. I have no supposition with that whatsoever. I think it's a great thing. It's a great day in America. And they got rid of some of these supposedly Republicans who haven't done anything but have been objectionists. They're against everything, won't compromise, and just and a non-inclusive. And I've said that time and time again here. These people do not want anything to go away from them, and it's white privilege. I call it institutionalized privilege. And they thought that those jobs were there forever. They didn't listen to anybody. They doggone sure didn't support Hampton University and our Cancer Institute. And it was for the craziest of reasons. And I'm just saying, so goodbye. Hey, good riddance.
So do you think that this portends what is going to come in the midterm elections next year?
No.
Really?
No. Unless these people get themselves together, the rest of them that are there, they're going to be scared to get stuff done. My position has always been I'm not a Democrat, Republican, communist, or anything. I am for my interests and my community interests. Always been that way. And in these days, the Republican Party, the way they think, lower taxes, national defense, good, strong industries and business is what I'm for. My 3 kids, among others, and my 3 best friends' 3 kids are all gone. They're they're moved. They're in California, Baltimore, and Baltimore's a great city, doing a lot of good things up there. And actually, my son asked me that he wanted to come back and work on some issues as a lawyer. And I said, no, just too many opportunities in Baltimore. You had to be crazy to leave here, which broke my heart to tell him that.
So you don't think the same opportunities are here?
No.
In Virginia?
No.
Well,
Virginia doesn't invest in science and research and technology. They invest in tourism, which is some of the lowest paying jobs in the world.
In this area. What about like Northern Virginia?
There's Northern Virginia, there is Central Virginia, there's Hampton Roads, Virginia, and then there's the rest of Virginia.
Right.
The rest of Virginia is not producing the kind of educational platforms for our kids to get these STEM jobs. For his goodness, Governor McAuliffe has stated this 1,000 times. There are over 67,000 high-tech jobs available in cybersecurity and all of these kind of things. Our kids aren't qualified because of some of these schools that have dummied themselves down so much, they're not educating our kids. They're getting ready to SOLs. They're getting ready to everything. There's no challenge. There's no competition.
Okay, so you mentioned SOLs, and that kind of disturbs me because I teach a lot of students who, survive the SOL thing, but they can't write. They don't know footnoting, endnoting, bibliography. And I'm thinking that if maybe there's a middle ground between SOLs and other kinds of testing.
There is middle ground. Parents should get involved in the education of their children. That's the middle ground.
Yeah. Yes, but
hang on.
but
sorry,
you are
young lady.
assuming that all parents have the ability and maybe have had the education to do that. There are a lot of parents who are well-meaning, who are good parents, who maybe don't have education and can't do that. And I'm speaking on behalf of students that I know that come from families who maybe don't have the skills to help them.
Maybe they
So, it is amazing. We started out talking about elections, and you
we
guys
talked
have gone
about
to
elections.
parents.
No, we
Go
have
ahead.
not. No, we have
He
not.
went to
Because I think
parents.
families and our values and our morals and our rights are why I vote the way I vote. And I think a lot of people came out because they don't like the direction that the federal government is going in. And you saw woman after woman, white and black, standing in the rain voting. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
Because
I
they
agree.
have
As
a
matter of
difference
fact,
in philosophy.
In the state of Virginia, more than 90% of African American women who voted for Mr. Northam.
I bet that's 98%, to tell you the truth. but it's the same thing. Education
Let's talk to
and
Ellis
politics.
in Norfolk. Hi, Ellis. You're on the air.
Good morning, Barbara. How are you?
Okay. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
This is Ellis,
Hi.
and I stood in the sunshine and the wind and then the rain at the polls all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I am proud to say that after having worked for 3 months in my precinct, which happens to be Barron Black in Norfolk, that I saw the people, many of the people that I talked to and asked about the issues and urged to turn out to support the Northam candidacy along with the ticket and all of the candidates on the Democratic side.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and I listened carefully after thanking the people for turning out to their responses and what their concerns were. And they were there especially to try to protect women's health care issues and those issues. And they were also very concerned about getting some people elected that would pay attention to the things that are necessary and that this new administration seems to be tearing apart. And it was quite interesting to see their enthusiasm. I had, at my precinct, I had people who brought their children of all levels of age and had them pay attention to who the candidates were from across the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just so proud that our folks turned out in record numbers.
Okay, Ellis, thanks so much for the call. We really appreciate that. So Ellis is saying that people just really recognize that they need to use the vote. And now that we have so many questions about voter registration and voter ID laws and all of that, is it going to be more important than ever moving forward, Carol, that we pay attention to those areas that are trying to stop our ability to vote?
I think it has always been important, and it is especially important now. And while we have thought about the president and the governor, I also think it's important for us to go down ballot and to think about our representatives as well as our local base. I want to encourage, I'm trying to encourage my students to go to city council meetings and to hear firsthand the issues, because this generation a lot of times doesn't really follow the newspaper thing. They are more on the internet. But I think also they need to be firsthand respondents to this and to treat it from the ground up. The schools, the transportation, all of those issues as well.
You're
Well,
shaking
what's
your
his
head,
name? Ellis, yeah.
Yes.
And my dear friend, it's not government that solves your problem.
But that's what I'm saying.
So what you need to do, I hear you loud and clear, but all of this diversity and all these kinds of things that we're making up to make people equal, we're all equal. I agree with that, but we're not all the same. And we got to look at this in a more general way. There's good Republicans and there are very bad Republicans. There are good Democrats and there are very bad Republicans. They're very good presidential candidates that run, and they're very bad. One is Hillary Clinton. So what I'm saying is the fact that we have to make choices.
But making choices means that you are educated enough to make those choices. And I'm not talking about a formal education. I'm talking about the grassroots, understanding what things are important to you and your community from a first-hand perspective.
That's our rhetoric.
It's not
what does
rhetoric.
It do? It's rhetoric.
It is not rhetoric.
Okay, Bill, there's a question for you from Facebook.
Yes.
And our Facebook writer wanted to know, quote, why do you fail to listen to someone else's opinion and continuously talk over the others? You have some good points. However, the audience may fail to hear your authentic voice due to your being boisterous.
That is a very good comment, and I agree with it. And I'm working on that. I am working on that, yes.
Okay.
I'm working it on a professional level and a personal level. You have to listen. You have to be part of the team. There's no I in team. I understand all of that. But sometimes we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and we get no results. What has happened in our community over the past 50 years has produced, overall, in my judgment, negative results. So I am done with the things that we tried before. I don't even want to hear it. And to that writer, I commend gentleman or lady. They're right. Mm-hmm. But I've got to be more patient. I'm trying. I'm working on it. I'm praying for it. That I have to be a better person from that standpoint. And I thank you for the question, and I'm going to work on it.
There you go. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Give us a call. We're talking about the election coverage and what that means. We're also going to be talking about all of the sexual harassment issues that have come up recently, as well as the mass shootings and gun control. So if you have questions, comments about that, or if you just want to talk to Bill and Carol, give us a call, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So to both of you, now that we have, like I said in the beginning, we have, for the first time, two Latinos elected. We have a transgender who's been elected. We have African Americans who've been elected. The point being, in our General Assembly, there seems to be more diversity now. Do you think that will add to the ability, for healthcare in Virginia? Will things change in terms of what's important in terms of the legislature? Carol, I'll start with you.
Oh,
then I'll come back
then
to you, Bill
come back.
Thomas.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
I'm reticent to say that they will change. It depends on the voices of the people that are representing and how adamantly they support particular agendas. The other side of it is they're going to be, in terms of racial categories and ethnic, they are still going to be outnumbered. Now, if you're talking about their affiliation with the party and their ability to negotiate within their party, I think there could be some change.
And also, the Democrats picked up more seats.
Yeah.
This time, right? Which was a shock.
And that definitely was a shock. Yeah.
What do you think about that, Bill?
Here we go with this diversity stuff.
Oh,
I mean,
Bill.
You don't think that the community that it serves should be represented?
Yes, and they are represented. They are represented. They aren't represented when they don't vote, and Barack Obama said that. We are represented. We do express our opinions and our theory and influence in the General Assembly negatively because we haven't been voting.
But so we voted people in who look like the diversity that the community raises.
America, and that's what the problem with America is, the core problem. And I'm almost going to say, you people, keep going back.
Oh, no, you didn't.
To this issue, and I do respectfully. I really, truly do.
Okay.
America is a melting pot. Always have been. Mm-hmm. We blended our cultures, our language, our goods and our bads, our rich and poorness all together and came up with this thing called America. That was a melting pot of ideas and races and genders and religious affiliations. Now we're trying to go with all of these outliers, transgender, Hispanic.
Why are they outliers?
Why are they outliers? They're not outliers. They are Americans. Outlier probably is not the right word. We're we are redefining what America is. That's a better way of putting it. Mm-hmm. We're all together. We're all equal And of course, we're not all the same. And that's what creates the diversity. But what we have to do is recognize ourselves by our ideas and our values, not by what they call us.
So you don't think that if you had a General Assembly that was all white male, as an example, that the outcome would be different than if you had a General Assembly that was representative of the community at large?
Doesn't matter what color they are, is what they're thinking.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that you still may have that, mentally wise.
Carl joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Carl. You're on the air.
Hi, thank you for taking my call, and God bless you, the gentleman who speaks so eloquently. My only point was I was listening to the show, and I love NPR, and I support NPR both through my taxes and through pledges. And I just find it so sad. I was a journalism major. Your show, you're so partisan. You know, your first 3 minutes, anybody could beam here from any part of the world and know that you were a Democrat. And I just think that you have to have some responsibility as a true journalist to try to, exude some degree of impartiality. You talked about, we won this and we're making inroads. This is not your own personal platform. And until NPR stops taking public money, isn't there something to be said for trying to just be somewhat of a journalist and be impartial and let your guests duke it out? But isn't there anything, when you accept public money, don't you have to be something of impartial, or am I missing something?
No, Carl, you bring up a good point. And if I said we, I should have said Democrats and Republicans. So I apologize for that. You are absolutely right for calling me out like that, because I should not say we. I should say Democrats or Republicans or independents or whichever way you decide to vote, libertarian, etc. So thank you very much for the call. And he's right.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry. I said we.
And my point was with the caller on the Facebook call is that there's so much. 98% of the press is liberal. 98%. They're trying to get Trump out of there, and that's fine if you don't like him, but you get him out by voting, what you did the other day. That's how you do it.
Well, and I asked you about voting in the midterm elections, if you think that this trend that Virginia apparently started and New Jersey.
It's not a trend.
You don't think so?
It's not a trend.
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking you.
In the year 2000, 1999 and 2000, when George Allen came in and wiped out all the Democrats and the Republicans took over the House and the Senate, it was because people had had enough. And this happens every 30 years or so. The Democrats used to control all of this stuff. Now the Republicans control it, and they didn't do anything. They didn't accomplish anything. You had people out there like Delegate in Virginia Beach, 2 or 3 of them that got put out of their seats because they're not doing anything. We have a horrendous, and I always come back to me and my interest because that's what I am. Black people and white people, and like white women in Williamsburg, has the highest breast cancer death rate in the entire country. And we're trying to fight that. And we're trying to do something.
Proton
yes, and we're trying to help that. And the Virginia General Assembly would not give us the resources that they gave others. We're just talking about fairness. And I agree with the other young man, and I apologize for talking over my good friend here, but you just get tired of hearing the same old thing. The Republicans are no good. You'd ask me specifically? Yeah, the ones that got shoved out of office, good riddance.
Okay.
Well, just for the record, I'm not Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent, and there have been times when I have voted Republican and times when I voted Democrat, and I look at both sides, both issues, and sometimes I am in total agreement with Republicans.
Oh, I thought you were a communist.
Anita joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Anita. You're on the air.
Oh, hi. Thank you. First, let me make a comment. My experience when people complain about diversity, it's usually because people aren't accepting their views. But I called because I want to know, I live in Norfolk, and my city has been split in terms of districts. And so I'm lumped in with people on the Eastern Shore, and I don't see how that's going to be representative.
You're lumped, and I'm not quite understanding.
Yes, like my congressional delegate from the Eastern Shore. My delegate to the House here, combined with the Eastern Shore.
Okay, so why do you think you wouldn't be represented?
Well, I don't think they necessarily speak to city needs.
Right. She's talking about they're rural out there, and they have issues that they want to deal with.
So you have one person who is representing both urban and rural.
Right. And it's not fair for her because she has issues here that are specific to Norfolk. rising water, flooding, crummy schools, that kind of stuff that you need to deal with.
Okay, and I understand that.
And I apologize
but I guess
for that comment. I should not have said crummy schools.
But my question is, I guess I'm saying if you are a delegate who has to represent both areas, would you not look at the major issues in both areas?
No, they're all trying to get reelected. They're only interested in getting the people that's going to support them at the ballot box and not for the issues that this young lady is expressing.
But if people vote you into office, is there not an expectation that you're going to take care of their issues?
Yeah, but they're not. That's what she's saying. That's her complaint. They're not.
Carol?
I'm baffled because I thought that when we voted for representatives who were going to look at both sides of the issue and come up with solutions that are, you might not satisfy everybody, but you're going to come up with a workable solution that says we are in the process of getting to something that will satisfy the majority of people in the district. You're closer to knowing all of the dynamics of resolving a problem.
How about health care? Nothing's been done about that. We need to have health care.
Okay, hang on one second and we'll come back and talk about that. But if you're just joining us, we're talking about the elections and other current events with Carol Pretlow with Norfolk State University, community activist Bill Thomas, and you, our audience. Let's go to Daniel in Yorktown. Hi, Daniel. You're in the air.
Hi. I would like to disagree with Bill about America having always been a melting pot, because it hasn't always been a melting pot. It's just, it was built for white male landowners, and that's how it started out. And we have diversity, and we should look at diversity as something we have to deal with, not something that we were built on or that it's necessarily wonderful in itself. It's something we have to deal with each other. We have to adapt, like on Gilligan's Island when they crashed and they had all this diversity. All these people, they didn't mix together. They had to deal with each other and make a way. That's what we have to do in America, but we weren't founded on diversity or anything like that. That's actually not correct. I do agree with a lot of what Bill says, of course, but, I think you're trying to be too nice when you say that, Bill. No,
not really.
Go ahead, Bill. Thank you for the call, Daniel.
It's the goal. It's the principles. Of course we have not been a melting pot. We've been the coal, we've been the ice, and we've been the water that has been thoroughly disenfranchised for 300 years as far as I'm concerned. But the goal and the principle of America is to become a melting pot. And that's why we should vote, and that's why we should hold our leaders accountable. And that is why I said, maybe not correctly sentenced, but the fact that that's the goal, that's the principle. And if America is going to be great and America is going to be exceptional, we have to figure out a way to make that melting pot concept work and not have 3 or 4 or 8 transgenders and Hispanics and blacks and all of this stuff. We got to get together.
But isn't that the melting pot?
No, but we have to be on the same page. We're not on the same page.
Okay. Well,
in my judgment. I agree with that young man. Yeah, but the goal, the principles are to do that. We need to speak the same language.
Okay. Let's talk about the mass shootings and gun control in this country. I'm going to play a clip from All In with Chris Hayes, which you hear on MSNBC, that illustrates how the president reacted to both the mass shootings that have happened in the country and also the terrorist attack that happened in New York.
I think that mental health is your problem here. This was based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual, a lot of problems over a long period of time. We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it. This is a mental health problem at the highest level. It's a very, very sad event. These are great people and a very, very sad event. But that's the way I view it.
In the wake of mass atrocities, the president appears to have two modes. If the assailant is Muslim, the president hardly waits until the bodies are counted to politicize and to criticize and to hector and to blame. And if the assailant is not, well, then nothing, or something like that.
We need quick justice, and we need strong justice, much quicker and much stronger than we have right now. because what we have right now is a joke, and it's a laughing stock.
Mr. President, do you want the assailant from New York sent to Gitmo? Mr. President?
I would certainly consider that, yes.
Are you considering that now, sir?
I would certainly consider that.
Are you?
Send him to Gitmo. I would certainly consider that, yes.
So, Carol, do you see why do you think there's such a difference in terms of both acts were horrendous and
Right.
both acts killed people? But it seems that when it comes to guns, there's one reaction that it's mental health, that it's not as that we shouldn't talk about gun control right now because we should be mourning folks and being a little more respectful of people at that point. And then, but when the young man who used the car to run down people in New York City and also killed people, send them to Gitmo.
Whew. This is difficult because when I think of a mental health issue, it could be that in both categories, there is a mental health issue. But on the other hand, if you're looking at gun control, I think it starts with recognizing the very idea of licensing people to have guns means that they're going to go through some checks, and some people should have them and some shouldn't. So I think they are actually two separate things.
Well, but even with the gun control, if you're looking at that issue in terms of who should have guns and who shouldn't, this young man who allegedly did the shooting in Texas, none of the information about his mental health was put into the system.
Exactly. And so that means there needs to be a more effective way of gauging people's rights to own guns and to carry and that sort of thing. On the other hand, to say quick justice, well, part of the analysis of when somebody goes through the court system is, are they mentally competent? What is their mental state and all of that? So I think they go hand in hand.
Let's talk to Frank in Norfolk. Hi, Frank. You're on the air.
Yes. I just want to comment that we are the worst country in terms of deaths by guns. But it is very, very, I was looking at the statistics, and only 40% of all Americans declare that they have guns. So we cater to the minority of crazy people that want to have guns, and under any ethical standards, we're failing. Under utilitarian standard, justing approach, right approach.
Okay, thanks, Frank, for the call. We appreciate that. But it is legal, and it is our right by the Constitution to own firearms. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But people, these mass killings, people are saying all we need to do is tighten up the laws. We're not saying don't take away everybody's gun.
You're not going to take away everybody's gun. That's number one. I think there's $360 million firearms, 360 million firearms out here in the public in general. I have 3 myself.
The United States has the most guns out of all the countries.
That is correct, and that's why
industrialized
we have strength in our country. Nobody can attack us because we're not going to have any lands attack anymore. The difference between the man who was insane in the Texas issue and the man who was an enemy combatant in the New York is just that. This man had a philosophy that he wanted to kill Americans in New York. So he is an enemy combatant.
And so this gentleman in Texas wanted to kill Americans. He did.
He wanted to kill his mother-in-law and their family. He's crazy. And if the Air Force or Army or whatever service he was in would have done their job, he would have never have gotten the weapon. And if someone there who came to stop him with a weapon would have not stopped him, he would have killed more. I don't understand.
I don't understand the difference. I mean, honestly, I'm asking you to explain to me the difference between there's the two people who are killing people.
We have laws that should have protected us against what the criminal did in Texas, the crazy man. Somebody fell down. Somebody dropped the ball. That's why that happened. If somebody would have done.
So why can't we talk about it?
We can talk about what?
Your president said it's not time to talk about it.
He can say whatever he wants to say. No, it's not your president.
Our president said, let's not talk about it.
And Mr. Trump said, I was a delegate at his convention.
Yes, you were.
I'm proud of it because I believe in ideas, not people. People will fail you. It's ideas and principles like the melting pot. Those things are good. But let's get back to this.
Yeah. So what did the president say that would let you believe that
he was wrong? He was wrong.
Okay.
How about that? He was just wrong. We need to deal with these automatic weapons. And we need to do with the ability for people to adjust these weapons to make them
exactly
worse.
So when we had Sandy Hook, these were children who were killed. We had we had Vegas, and he used the bump stock.
I think there's more to that. I think there's more to that Vegas thing. What
do you mean?
I have used a M60 machine gun. I know what it does and how you can do it. It's very, very heavy. It's very, 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 very calculated. You have to have everything working at the same time. I think this man was 60 or 70 years old that was in Las Vegas. I think it's almost impossible. I could not do that. To load that thing up and to keep it and fire it, it is very, very difficult. But put that aside. Sandy Hook was a mother knew that her child was mentally challenged. She had the guns. She didn't lock them up. So she put that community in danger because she didn't do her job as a mother. And the father as well, who was not connecting with his son. So there's issues that you're never going to catch them all. And it's a tragedy that it happens. But Barbara, here's what I'm saying, and my good friend. We still have how many murders in Chicago?
True.
We have a murder a day in Hampton Roads. I got a question. Are white people murdering other white people? Every day I get up and look at TV.
Oh,
some
Lord.
black person it's I can't even look at it. It makes me sick. I want to throw up. In Hampton, off Shell Road. That must be Dodge City out there. I mean,
it's not just black people shooting black people.
No. On the news. Barbara, I'm just talking about what I see on the news.
Right.
Let's count up the number of...
And let's also recognize that, yes, there's a lot of shootings in the black community, but it's not a black problem.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Gun problem.
I don't think it's a gun problem.
You don't think it's a gun problem?
I think it's a family problem.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
But there is a problem in the black community.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, there's 600 people in Chicago.
Take this beautiful lady off the base out there and go strangle her and throw her precious body in the trash in North Carolina. There's something going on. Now, white people do that as well, but we didn't used to do that crazy stuff.
Okay.
We didn't.
Carol.
So
Barbara, did we?
Happened that we...
Did we?
We have had people killing people in the black community all along.
Not like this. Not in these record conditions.
Okay, and you may be right.
I
mean,
am right.
in terms of the numbers, but it's not like this is something brand new.
It is.
That's been happening in the community.
But I want to top everything. I want to be patient and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Okay. When I grew up in Kansas City, I think we may have, and that's from 19 years, we may have 1 or 2 murders a year. Now there's 300 or 400.
In
Kansas City.
In Kansas City, okay.
700 or 800 or 1,000 in Chicago.
From Facebook, somebody is asking the question, is black on black crime an economic question?
Yes, absolutely. Sure, that's it. Everything's in America, this melting pot revolves around those old white men who had all this land in Virginia, who convinced the poor white people out there to fight for their land. It's always been about that. Our issue right now is education and economics.
And lack of jobs.
Well, if you don't have education and you don't have money, you don't have a job.
Well, see, I agree with you. I do agree with you because to me, everything starts with economics. I wish I had learned that when I was in college because I thought political first, economics second. But it's economics first because economics funds everything else. And if you don't have, I'm sorry, but if you are... If you don't have money and there are other people who do and you don't have education and all the things that go with getting a stable lifestyle, you're going to do what you do
and that includes a husband and wife.
So a question for you, Bill. The NRA, excuse me, the NRA is one of the largest lobbying groups. They gave Donald Trump how much money? Lisa looked it up, $21 million. It's the highest amount the NRA has ever donated to a presidential candidate.
And
is that, do you think, part of the reason why Congress will not tackle the idea of stricter gun laws?
What did I say drove everything? Money.
Hello. Show me.
Let's talk to Heidi in Portsmouth. Hi, Heidi. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
we keep talking about mental health like it's a static situation, and mental health is fluid. So you might be completely stable enough to own a weapon today, and based on a psychotic break or a stressful trigger, such as divorce or losing your job, you could become completely unstable the next day. And certainly, there are more factors than that. But why do we have these manufactured weapons still available for purchase? We shouldn't. That goes back to the manufacturers own the politicians, they own the NRA owns the politicians. That's the cycle we need to break.
Okay, thank you, Heidi, for the call. She's back to
I
your
agree.
point.
I agree 100%.
Right to your point.
And what happens is, I would think that if I started losing mental facilities, I would hope that my 3 sons and daughter would come down and say, Dad, where are those guns you got? We need to probably put trigger locks on them, or I would hope that they would do that, and I tell them to do that. It's not the government's responsibility. It's their responsibility to make sure that I'm okay, I'm getting older, and so I got to be more careful, and I got to have people helping me be more careful.
Well, do you think that gun laws would prevent people from, if they still wanted to get the guns, they would still get the guns?
Oh, yeah, I agree. They'd find a way to get them. But
actually, with new technology, you can make the guns.
Oh, don't say.
No, he's right. I mean, in terms of what's on the internet, yes. Yeah. Good.
Oh.
So let's switch the conversation to sexual harassment. Okay, a lot of very prominent men are being accused by women across the board.
I don't know nothing about this.
You gonna stay out of this conversation?
I don't know nothing about this.
In terms of being sexually harassed. Well, but here's the thing. It's very interesting because I was reading a op-ed from Anita Hill in the New Yorker.
Yeah, I remember.
And she was saying that the reason why the Weinstein phenomenon, as they're calling it, has exploded so is because of not who the accused are, but who the accusers are, meaning that because these are celebrity women who have been coming forth now to complain, that now it's finally catching on that this is a major issue. You know, back when Anita Hill was complaining against Clarence Thomas, she became the victim. She did, Bill. Come on now. You cannot go with that.
I argued for Clarence Thomas on Capitol Hill, supporting him. So I just want to have the record straight.
Okay.
Well, she became the villain. You're absolutely right, Lisa. Thank you.
Maybe she
became the villain. Bill.
I don't
really?
know. Yeah, that's what I thought at the time.
Why? Why did you think that?
Because what she was telling America, what that man was doing, it's not what black men do with black women. They don't talk like that. Now, that's
a pretty generic statement that I don't agree with.
What do you mean?
I don't think I agree with that one.
No, all that stuff that she was making up and all this pubic hair and a Coke can and all that stuff, where in the world did that come from?
So you don't believe her? You still don't believe her to this day?
Absolutely not.
So do you believe the women who are accusing Harvey Weinstein, Louis C.K.?
Yes.
The president, head of why? So why do you believe them and not Anita Hill?
It's 2 reasons I believe it. Because number one, he has done it, and he has paid off people to keep their mouths shut. So number one, it's not like he has not done this. Number 2, Gretchen from Fox News,
Gretchen Carlson.
She sued Fox News $30 million or $50 million or some crazy number. Now it's about the money, and I'm sure what happened to Gretchen, it became not an economic benefit, but the consequences weren't so hurtful because even if she failed, she got the money. And I'm not saying she did it for the money because I believe those clowns were messing around with them. Men have been using their power over influence of women all of their lives. Now, I'll go back to family. All 19 years I lived in my house in Kansas City, I never saw my father have an argument, treat my mother with any kind of disrespect. They didn't even drink or smoke in front of us because then I would learn that. So I always didn't tolerate that stuff. So when I saw men, my friends, being bad with their girlfriends or with their daughters or their sisters, I would always get them and say, no, you don't act like that. So I think a lot of this stuff that's going on the women's side too, because they've seen all this abuse in their life and just tolerate it. So I congratulate these women for standing up. I believe what they're doing because it is true. And I hate it. I think it's a drag on our society. I think women have been decimated for this for years and years and years, and I applaud them for standing up and getting these crummy bums out of the position so that they don't deserve.
Carol, are you surprised that companies are reacting as quickly as they are? I mean, they're snatching films away. They're taking, with Kevin Spacey, they've taken him off of House of Cards and the movie he was in. I mean, they're reacting very quickly.
Well, I'm not surprised now. Now, if it had been 20 years ago, I would be surprised. But right now, women are active in the workplace. We looked at the statistics of women voting. Women have power. They're having more power. And so before it hits them, they're like, we're going to be proactive on it. And I think that's what's happening. And I'm not surprised.
And that's what you should do. That's what I teach my daughter.
Yeah.
If anybody says anything, first of all, when you go out on a date, ask the gentleman for his driver's license. Take your camera and take a picture of it. And then go down and get his car license plate. Take a picture of that. And then send it to me and him with my telephone number on it.
Is that that's what you tell your daughter to do?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm glad you do that.
And I was shocked when she was I won't go through her personal stuff, but she calls me. And the gentleman even called me. And they're very respectful. And so, again, I lay a lot of this. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this lolly stuff, but it goes back to families and what we used to do and how we need to do things and how we raise their women. I also told my daughter when she was teaching in Philadelphia, where that's.
Well, let me ask you this, because you talk about what you tell your daughter. What did you tell your sons?
Oh, to be a man. I tell them the same story I told them. My father never raised his voice. He opened the door. He was courteous. He didn't do anything because he wanted us to have the same reverence and respect he had for his wife. And if they do anything different, I'll knock them upside the head. But no, they know better. They better treat that woman as if they were his sister, who he saw that relationship. And actually, I took my son out of public school, and the principal asked me why, and he said, I know why. It's the atmosphere. Because he would come home with he's a very good football player, ended up being All-State in Maryland, because I got him out of here. I said, no, you got to change. And he was talking to his sister roughly. I said, where's that coming from? Well, we're a football team. We all stick together. You don't stick together. And within 6 months, he was out of that school. And he was in a Protestant school, teaching, raising that flag every day, the Catholic flag, whatever they raised every day, to get him back to normal. It took him about 6 months. And then he reverted back to where he should have been. Good kid, everything. But that disrespect for women had to be taken. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, and I agree with you. I think it starts with the family. But my concern is those people who don't have the strong family influence that you have in your family. Because there are people who don't. They're good people, but they don't have that base. And so that's where schools, colleges, the community steps up to the plate and fills the gap. And I'm hoping that we will do that.
So a lot of these women who are making the accusations now are talking about things that happened particularly in the 70s and in the 80s. Do you think that we're teaching our younger women now to be on the lookout for this kind of behavior and that they're less tolerant?
Actually, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s.
So did I.
And women were just, unfortunately, sitting ducks because y'all were trying to be free, and you were trying to be like the guys used to say gangsters. Okay, you want to be a leader, you want to be a gangster, we're going to treat you like a. Now I did not, but some did.
So you think that this behavior was because women were trying to take their rightful place within society in terms of running corporations, in terms of having
as Carol
those types of jobs?
Some did not have the mentorship or the family background to understand what's going on. And I even say that a lot of times. I was a Black Panther in college, and a lot of times I would say that if I had some leadership, or a father, I was up against him because he's a military guy, and I said, I'm done with all that stuff. If white folks want to shoot us, and we had a lot of shootings going on in the late 70s and 80s, I'm going to get a gun. So I went and got my gun. I said, I'm going to take care of my own thing. And people left me alone. And that's why I became a Republican, because I had what I had to take and take care of myself, because I didn't believe in the government. But what I'm saying is that a lot of women at that time did not have the role models and mentorships to tell them, hey, yeah, you got to do this, but here are the traps. Here are the pitfalls. 90% of these men, probably 100%, maybe say 99%, are just lying. They're just trying to get over. And then they would come in, or they're going to go to a party with us. We're going to be in a room with football players and stuff, drinking beer and wine and stuff. And at 1 o'clock, when those lights go out, you better be out of that room. Everybody.
Yeah. So, Carol, what are you hearing on campus? What are the young ladies saying in terms of how they expect to be treated in the workplace, what, or even how they expect to be treated while they're on campus?
Well, I think they have become growingly aware of the need to act with respect. And so I tell them that, okay, we want men to treat us with respect, but then you have to act with respect as well. And perhaps when you see your sister or your colleague not acting in accord with a raised standard, then you must quietly tell her, just as I do students. I try not to embarrass them in class, but what I'll say is, can I see you in a few minutes after class?
Good.
And I think it is working, because last week a young man came in my office to apologize to me for a comment that I don't even remember that he made. And he says, I think I was disrespectful of you. And I was so
you think young men
proud.
are becoming
I think
more
they're becoming
sensitive and more tuned in?
aware.
I think what I'm going to do, and we're getting to that retirement age, what I would like to do is get together with a couple of people and just teach this morals, value, respect for yourself academy, and mentor and father these young men that don't know what they need to do to be a man, and a woman what she needs to do to be the president of the United States of America and still a woman, or still have the kind of things that she wants to express in her life with all these stupid challenges that they still have to meet. But we as black people have been doing this for as long as we've been alive. So we know it. But we know it.
Yeah, but the family unit is not the same as it was
gone.
when
That's
when
why
you were
we
there.
need to have people like Carol, like me, like yourself.
Yeah.
We got to start these academies or whatever you want to call them. I am going to do that. I'm just going to get 100 guys out of class, Norfolk State, Hampton, CNU, doesn't matter.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I was with Bobby Kipper yesterday, and he was talking about how he had been invited to speak at Hampton University because a men's group on campus asked him to come to talk about domestic violence and about what should men do. And so I found that extremely encouraging.
There's a hunger for it. That room is filled over. And they sit there. You have to tell them to be quiet or be respectful or nothing. That young man's taking them through a lesson of life. And I think that is critical in the involvement of this melting pot that I keep mentioning. We need that kind of spiritual, fatherly, motherly issues within our community.
You know, I feel sorry a little bit for some men who are out there. Well, I'll give you an example. I was at a meeting the other day, and a dear friend came in who I hadn't seen in a while. And normally, you all know I'm a hugger. Yeah. And so I said, "Oh, you're not going to hug me?" And he said, "Not in this environment." And that's sad. Because we can't interact with each other as we normally do.
You have to be careful. You just have to be careful. You get sued. But
Bill Thomas, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
I have to say one thing, because my dear good friend Rodney Jordan, I would be remiss not to say it. I think that, and yourself at the Norfolk Regional Housing Authority, I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. I think Rodney and the new superintendent are breaking things down that's going to help everybody and help all be successful. I think your leadership and talent has brought that same thing to the city, and I want to say that I applaud you guys. And there's problems. We have problems. But if we work together, I want to tip my hat to you guys, Rodney Jordan and Barbara Ham Lee, for presenting that leadership here.
Thank you so very much. And Carol, thank you for being here today. I so appreciate it. And thank you, my audience, for listening to us today. Our podcast is available wherever you go for your listening pleasure, and you can always find us at anotherviewradio.org. And if you consider yourself a moderate Republican or independent and you're interested in being a pundit with the Round Table, send us your resume in a short paragraph, no longer than 500 words, telling us why you should be selected to contact@anotherviewradio.org. Please, no phone calls. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Victor Bowen is our audio engineer, and Catherine Fink answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Thank you so very much for listening to Another View.